With more than 30 million sold cars worldwide, the Volkswagen Golf is definitely one of the most important cars in the whole automotive history. And we will have today a closer look on all these 7 generations here, and will go all the way back into the 1970s. And we will right now start here with the first generation, which was from 1974 until 1983. This specific car is from 1980, so very close to the life circle's ending. You can also remark that it is a historical car by this edge right here. So, well, let's now begin. First of all, you have these round headlights, and I'm looking forward how this will change from generation to generation. Furthermore, we have this horizontal grille, which in my eyes looks pretty awesome even at this point of time. So we are now continuing right in the side profile, and we are starting here in the front. Look at this design line. This is following all the way until the rear right here, and then also have a closer look at the steep window right here and at the C-pillar in the back. So this has always remained over all the different generations the same in the Golf. Furthermore, I told you in the beginning that this car normally was built until 1983. And before I forget it to mention, this car is 3 meters 70 long, which are for all American viewers about 13'1". But now, let's get here to the rear. First of all, you will definitely see this big, huge rear window. This is, well, pretty a lot if you compare it to nowadays cars. But even look at these tiny and rather sharp tail lights. If you compare it with nowadays cars, you might say, okay, this does not look good, but isn't it a bit of fancy? So before we get into the car, I would like to draw your attention to this part, because here is a special release to open the door. You just have to pull this one, and then you see it opens. And when it closes, hear this sound. I really like it. What about you? So now let's get into the car, and the first view for you guys. Yeah, you can see everything is very, very basic. So And that's basically it when you talk about the Volkswagen Golf, because Volkswagen, when you sort of translate it, it could be called like people's car. So this is the car for everyone. So at this point of time, even this car cost about 8,500 German mark. This would be about 11,500 euros nowadays. So everyone could technically get this car. And well, when I take a seat right now, first of all, these cloth seats, they are very, very comfortable. So even as this car is older than me myself, I'm right now 19 and this car is about 30 years old. This is quite interesting. But look at this thin steering wheel. Do you remember the time where the doors open not electronically, but you had to pull this little button here and then your co-driver was able to get into the car? So let's test now if we can connect our smartphone. Okay, I know this joke was not the best one, but look at this very tiny and sort of neat infotainment system. Well, at least you just have here the radio. It looks just neat and I really like this. To have a close look at the beginnings of this car. So now let's open the glove box. Okay, it's not the biggest one at all, but look at this. The original handbook is included in this car, and well, if we know, look at it. It got a prize by the city of Stuttgart. Very interesting. And so now let's get into the rear. First, freely look for you guys, as always. Yeah, at this point, they also use cloth seats. I think it's still the best option you can always go for. So, the first two remarks when I sit inside here. I really feel sitting a little bit higher than in the newer models. Furthermore, the head restraint is missing. So this is a little bit weird for the first time. But yeah, now to the most obvious thing. Look at this space. Okay, head-wise, I totally fit in here, no matter. But remember, this car is 3.70 meters long, 13'1", and I'm 1.70 meters, so it should be about 5'8". I'm not that sure, but this would be between a Polo and a Volkswagen Up. Well, this has definitely changed within the last years. Would I go for a ride? Probably not. And if you think of Thomas or any other team member in our team, no one would really fit in here, but at least the seats are comfortable. So at this time, consider the length and the space which was used in the car. This is very great. And we can also see it when I open now the hatch. It's a little bit tricky here. And now look right here. You have a massive space in this car. Especially, a number plate, sort of. Well, at least for static shootings. And you can also see right here that you have a lot of space. So it would not be a problem if you go shopping, if you go to traveling with this car. And probably this has convinced a lot of people to go for this car. When we talk about traditions, look at this badge, Volkswagen Werk AG. So about the assembly plant in West Germany. Very neat, isn't it? So in this car, or this vehicle, we have the 1.5 petrol engine with 70 horsepower. There was also a GTI available with a maximum of 110 or 112 horsepower, which was at this point of time was a lot. And when you now look at this engine in general, you can first of all see everything. So you have nothing hidden by any sort of plastic. And if you want to, you can always repair any little piece inside on your own. Yeah, for sure, you must be able to do so. So now we're going on with the second generation, which was built from 1983 until 1991. And we're starting here at the front. You see the headlights are still round, but they are now covered by, yeah, I think it's plastic right here. We still have a 3D logo, but there were just small changes, because when we look here at the side profile, this car has totally grown by 30 centimeters. Now this car is, well, about 4 meters long. This should be about 13 foot, 1, 2 or 3, something like in between. And this promises a lot of space in the inside. Furthermore, the typical key elements of each Golf, here is the window and also the seat pillow, have remained the same. And soon we will also explain you what GL means. So now here at the rear, first of all, the car has become a little bit wider than in the first generation, and also a Volkswagen logo was added to the rear. So if you haven't seen it before, then skip a little bit back to the first generation, because there was no logo at all. So now let's get inside. We still have the same mechanism as in the first generation, and you see, we still have those very nice and comfortable cloth seats, and we have for the first time a dashboard unit, because in the first generation everything was kept quite simple, and we have also for the first time RPM meters right here in this car. When we look here at the inside of the doors, then you will remark that this one is also covered by cloth, and you can also adjust the mirrors from the interior. So before I forget it, this car was built in 1990. So just as an additional information for you guys. And when I sit here, I really feel comfortable in this cloth seat. For sure, it's very basic. Okay, you cannot expect so much in the second generation of this car. But in general, I have enough space, and even, bigger people could definitely fit in here. If you look at the steering wheel, it has become a little bit thicker than in the previous version. Okay, I will not do the same joke as before with the smartphone, but look at this redesigned, I cannot really say infotainment system or anything like this, but now you can not only save your radio channels, but you can also add a tape desk inside. So while there was a convertible version for the predecessor, here we have to open the panoramic roof manually, and imagine doing this in the city. Well, sometimes it might get pretty annoying. Okay, and now it's done. It's quite big. We can also see this in nowadays cars, and probably people have also used it by celebrating the Germany's World Cup win in 1990. So now let's open the door for the rear. Same mechanism as always, and well, look at this massive difference between the predecessor and this generation. I have plenty of space right here. Head-wise, it's as always no problem. And this is even the key point why people have chosen this car, because you have much more space and you do not always have to look, okay, can I really carry this around with me or not? And even traveling with your kids is no problems at all, even when they're in their teenage. You might remember the GL from the side profile. This is because there were 4 different trim levels available. The first one, C for comfort, then CL, comfort and luxury, then this one, GL, this would be something like a higher luxury, and then the GLX, so the top trim level. And now we will have a closer look of how much space we do have in the trunk. You have to open it right here, and the first thing you remark, there's not an even loading space. Well, what's the reason behind this one? Because we have a replacement tire right here. And how can this be? Yeah, as I said, we have much more space in the whole car, and the same is also for the trunk. You can load much more things in the much longer things can now be placed inside. So now we continue with the third generation, which was built between 1991 and 1997. And what can you remark? There was always an evolution, not a revolution at all. Okay, for sure we have refreshed, updated headlights here. They aren't that round anymore, but they aren't at all sharp. So you have still those little elements which you always can remember from each Golf. And even when we continue here in the side profile, for sure, steer window and the C-pillar are remained the same. So one other remark, the horizontal design line has also always remained the same. Furthermore, this Golf was also for the first time available as an estate. And when we look here at the rear, you see those very big tail lights that you have 3 steps here for braking, here when you set the indicators and so on. So very nice evolution. So we'll look now in the interior. Here still cloth is used, and just here at the outside hard plastic, listen, is used. What's also interesting is that you can adjust the mirrors electronically. So, and now I'm sitting right here. Sitting position is, as always, very satisfying, I would call it. What is remarkable? We see here this dashboard unit. There was no added much more structure right here, so it does not look attached anymore. And have a closer look at here. We have soft plastic, and this is also something very typical for Volkswagen, that high quality materials were already used in the 90s and before, so this aspect has always remained the same. The Golf 3 is sort of the entry into using more electronics in the car. When you look here at the AC unit, everything has become a little bit easier to control. And even here, when I now use this button up here, you can see the antenna is appearing right in the front. So now, well, let's see, to which radio would we like to listen right now? Okay, FM2, FM3, and so on. Very interesting, and a big step forward into the future. As I've mentioned, Volkswagen did not have so many safety features in their first generations, but now, even with the electronics, an airbag was added, as well as ABS, as you can see right here. So when we now get into the rear, you see the old mechanism was replaced by a new one, and if I take a seat, I can already tell you it's basically the same as in all the other models. For sure, plenty of space. But what is more interesting when we talk about safety, head restraints were now added also in the rear. Probably a dream for each Golf fan, isn't it? This very massive setup here. But now let's focus on the trunk, because there's also a little change. We now have a sort of even loading space, although we can place another tire right underneath. If you have watched our video carefully, then you might now remark that this is the 4th generation here, and people are talking that this is the Golf, the best Golf of all the time. Probably because it is said that it has the best durability of all. When we now look at the changes, for sure, the manufacturers love to change the headlights, and they also now getting very close to nowadays Golf, if you ask me. Now here in the side profile, you will also remark that this car has become about 10 centimeters longer than in the predecessor. So now we are looking at the rear. And what can you remark, especially right here, are those Spaltmaße, as we Germans call it. So those little gaps which you can see basically all around the car. They had the effect that this car appears that all parts fit perfectly together so that we get a very smooth design line, and also this whole body looks more harmonic. So when we now into the interior, first of all, listen to the door closing sound. Okay, very high quality. So while in the third generation, Volkswagen has improved the active safety features, now they have worked also on the passive safety features, as you can see right here at the example of the door, because it is now much thicker than in the previous generations. In general, the whole chassis was galvanized. For our German viewers, it would be vollverzinkt. With the Golf 4th generation, Volkswagen wanted to step up the game in the case of quality. And you can also say that they also stepped up the game in design, because as you have seen, the two-color scheme seats right here, they look a little bit better than in the previous generations. And also here right now, the steering wheel, it appears to be better, or that it's better to control, because it fits much better in your hands right here. We have talked about gaps on the outside, and the same remains right here in the interior. It looks like there's only one piece. And when we now look at the infotainment section, or at this middle console, as we should rather say, it is orientated to the driver. So that I, as a driver, can control the radio much better. Or if I want, I can also get out the beverage holders, which are sort of adaptive. We've talked about design focus on the interior, and optionally you will able to get even wood for the interior, like here at the gear shifter, or here in the lower part, where we also had a 12-volt power supply. So now let's get into the rear. I've positioned the front seat as I would be driving with my 1.70 m, about 5'8", and you see I have so much space here for my knees and even above my head. No problem at all. So a long trip to Italy, okay, no problem anymore. Thomas with 190 or 1.86 m, I think, could have a few problems right here, but if he would sit on the co-driver position, that's no problem at all. So the first 3 generation I conceive as vintage cars, and the 4th generation is the first vehicle which I conceive as a modern car. We will also have a closer look right now at the trunk area. And another remark, first of all, the Volkswagen badge is now placed in the center right here. And when we open the trunk here, the loading sill is not as high as in the previous generations, and they've also improved right now the loading area, which is now totally flat. Although we do have the replacement tire. So we have here a very unique version of the 4th generation. We have here the 2.8 V6 engine with 204 horsepower. And, well, a lot of changes from the 1st generation to this one, because now the whole engine is covered. This is quite sad for auto enthusiasts like us. Even we have here hydraulic dampers. So the fifth generation of the Volkswagen Golf was produced from 2003 to 2008, and this does not appear as wide as in the predecessor. The main reason for this one is because it's higher. Especially when you look at the rear, this car has grown a little bit. So the most dramatic change we can see are in the rear at these very, very round tail lights, and maybe they are an allusion to the vintage car. So as I've already told you, we have here much more headroom even in the front, although we have the panoramic roof, which we open here manually. Well, it's quite nice, isn't it? And furthermore, we have more electronic updates. We have here a digital screen, and especially you can now control many more things electronically. Like here you can switch off the ESP, which is also now new introduced into a Golf. So one more look on the digital screen. So by pressing these buttons, these are hotkeys where you can save your favorite radio channels. So mine would be for today 1 Live. So key factor of this car is definitely that there is more space, especially here in the rear. You might remember I had about this space in the 4th generation, and now I could technically, when I lay back, need 2 hands so that I can show you of how much headroom I have here in the 5th generation. And especially for families, this was a key aspect to go for this car. Even very interesting is that we have here beverage holders which are adaptive. So where can I open the trunk? For the first time you can open it right here at the VW logo. When I open it right here, you see satisfactory space and definitely no problem. Probably even a little, it was increased a little bit in height as the whole car in general has grown a little bit. We still have here the place for the replacement tire as well as the replacement kit. After number 5, we have number 6, and we are now talking about the 6th generation of the Volkswagen Golf, which was manufactured from 2008 to 2012. Only 4 years. And the problem might be that a lot of people thought that this was just a facelift. And even when you look here in the front, I think it's pretty hard to differentiate the 5th and the 6th generation. At least at the rear, we can see the difference between those generations at the tail lights. So they have a new refresh design, and in my eyes, it looks very nice when you have this sort of C scheme here. What I do not really like is that they try to follow the C-pillar form, but look here, they did not do it the whole way down, and it does not as harmonic as before. So differences are more remarkable in the interior. First of all, we have the Alcantara seats, which are very comfortable, and I would always go for them. But you all have already seen it. This big infotainment screen. See here the clock. Yeah, I did not want to play the radio, but you see the resolution is for 2008. Well, was not the best one, but come on. Okay, new medium right now. You can connect your phone. When we now look here at the map, yeah, it does not know where we are. Yeah, you can control it here by this knob. Let's see. Yeah, you can control it via touch, but I would not recommend this to do. But in general, I mean, for 2008, it was a very new system which was introduced in the Volkswagen. If you want or open the windows right here, this whole section has moved from down here into the upper part. So for the first time it's a little bit weird, but even look here, I think it's aluminum which is used here, very high quality. So when we enter now the rear, these door handles remember us of the current Golf generation. And if I take a seat again, it's still very comfortable. I also sort of think that I've worked on the head restraint, that it's a little bit, more comfortable in general. So when you test all those generations, you really feel those little changes. So another short look on the trunk. You open it still by the VW logo, and you see the capacity, mostly remained the same. And now we have a look at the current Golf generation, the 7th. And you can see we have much sharper headlights, and in general the whole appearance of this car is a little bit more aggressive and a little bit sharper in general. But this is also a very successful generation, because this car was registered about 270,000 times in Germany last year. That's a market share of 8.5% of all new registrations. Worldwide, you can say that this car was sold about 1 million times. Of course, I'm talking of 2015 worldwide, because remember, the Volkswagen Golf was sold more than 30 million times. And in this case, you can also say, okay, the Golf is sold about 1 million times each year. And one more detail at these taillights, they appear a little bit sharper, and they are drawn a little bit more horizontal. So, welcome to the current gen's interior. And we first of all look at the infotainment screen, because this is the most recognizing element of this whole area right here. As I said, I would listen to 1 Live, and you may have seen it with proximity sensors when my finger gets closer to the touch screen right here. So we go to navigation now, and you see, so smooth and easy to control. It works like an iPhone or any other smartphone you would like to pick. And it's just one of the best systems we have seen right now in the game. But what can we say in general about the today's build quality? I mean, listen to the sounds. Okay, haters would now say, in an Audi it's all better. But remember, this is a Volkswagen, so the car for the peoples. And for this case, the quality is pretty high. And that's why maybe also a lot of people go for this car. Although, it's not as cheap as in the past. Because you can now buy this new generation, at least in Germany, from 22,000 euros. And can you still talk about an affordable car? I'm not that sure. So now I'm getting, for the last time, in the back of the Volkswagen Golf, and somehow I feel that I'm sitting a little bit lower than in the previous generations. Very interesting. But remember what I said about the length of the Volkswagen Golf 4? The specifications rather remained the same, and that's even why I have so much knee space and head room in general. Do you see this Golf 4 over there? We will test drive it very soon, but let me now just show you the trunk of the current generation. And remember what you have seen in the fourth generation, and I have the feeling that this trunk area is a little bit slimmer than before. You still can carry your replacement tire with you, for sure, but that's a little bit sad that you have lost a little bit of space. But you have a 12-volt power supply. So we now see here the engine, and basically we have, as usual, the normal TSI and TDI engine. If you want to know more about this, then check out our review about this Golf. But in general, this is the first Golf which is based on the MQB platform, which we already knew and also know from other Volkswagen vehicles. Later, I think about at the end of 2016, beginning of 2017, we are also expecting a facelift for this car, and for sure, probably the headlights will be a little bit changed. Even you will have a little bit more opportunities in the interior, a refreshed infotainment screen, and so on. But before I tell you so many things which I could expect in the facelift, let's rather test drive the first generation, the fourth generation, and the seventh generation. Welcome in the driving part of the first generation. So we are driving now, remember, the 1.6 liter engine with 70 horsepower, 1.5 liter engine with 70 horsepower, and this is all real manual work. I can show you it right now. I'm now switching into the third gear. Okay, now the sun is appearing, sorry guys. It's very hard for the first time. If you're not used to do this, you first of all think, okay, how can I do this? Because we are all used to those electronic help mechanisms which make it easier to drive, but here you really feel it's all manual work. Even if we now soon brake, yeah, I brake now, and you see it takes so much time to brake the car. And even now, here we see the turning circle. Well, it's not the best one. If I now want to get a little bit back, you see I have to steer the steering wheel a lot. And wow. So for the one part it appears to be very hard, but it's also kind of funny when you drive such a vintage car. So if you now listen to the engine, for sure I could not imagine to go with this car on a long trip to Italy, because it would be too loud. But so for the sound installation and so on. But I mean, for driving a few kilometers or miles with this car, it's very funny, and yeah, it's very, very nice. And wow, these brakes, oh my gosh. So as I said, I would not go on a long trip with them, because I do not really feel that safe in this car. But it's sort of funny. The overview in general to the sides, well, it's quite solid, I must say, and it's nothing spectacular, especially if we, but one remark, whoops, sorry guys, if you look into the rear window is very, very big, and this offers us a lot of opportunities if we go in the reverse gear. So now let's see about going a little bit left to right. Yeah, it feels a little sort of direct here. At least I have the image of this one. Oh, little bird, get away there. I don't want to kill you. Yeah. So all in all, I can do it a little bit more often right here. You see, just manual work, not help at all. So if you have the opportunity to test drive such a car at least once in your lifetime, do so. It's very funny, but be careful. So now let's test drive the 4th generation and okay. Okay, I did not expect this, but okay, let's start here. There you can also still see the 1st generation, which I've driven a few minutes ago, and okay, first thing I remark, it's less loud here. This car, it's very, very silent if you directly compare this, and even getting out of this workshop area. With the vintage car I had big problems for the first time, but with this one no problem at all, because you have more electronics, more help by the electronics basically, and you also feel much safer right here. So you can already see it from the steering wheel. I can already drive it sort of one-handed because I really feel safe in this car, and this is a very big step forward. If you look back to the 3rd generation, then the 3rd generation already came close to a modern car, in the case of driving, and yeah, the 4th generation here even increases this image in general. You see, steering wheel, well, if I compare it now to 1st generation, yeah, I think it's a little bit less direct, but it's a very nice and usual feeling you have when driving a nowadays car. Also, the sound installation here is definitely much better. You just hear the engine a little bit, but it's not as loud as in the vintage car for sure. And yeah, when I now brake, I also remark, okay, that the brakes work much better, and that's even one major aspect why I feel so safe in here. And also the wait a sec, I just leave this area for the first second, and then I will do a little U-turn. Whoops, and now reverse gear. Whoop, sorry. So this is always an interesting point. If you want to go into reverse gear, you have always to push down the gear lever. Sometimes I forget it, as you may have seen right here, and yeah, now you really heard the engine, but it was definitely not my intention at all. So yeah, thank you, sir. So, but in general, a very smooth and easy drive. So by all these electronic support you receive, and I can really understand why people say this is the Golf generation at all. I mean, if you can today buy a Golf 4 with I'm not sure with how many kilometers already on the engine, for a little price, I could also imagine to go for this one. For sure, you do not have this huge infotainment screen and so on, but I mean, it's very fun to drive, or let's say rather easy to drive. So even beginners who have just their license for about a month, they can have no problems at all in driving this car. And I think that's then it for the 4th generation. welcome to the test drive with the current generation, and you can already hear you cannot really hear the engine because it has the automatic start and stop function. But also when I now start to test drive this car, you have less noise in the interior because the Volkswagen company has worked on the sound reduction by the wind, or even at least by the engine. You will also remark that this car is more agile and comfortable at the same time, because when I now do some slalom right here, so you first of all feel okay, it's much sportier than the 4th generation right here, and I do not have to steer the steering wheel so much around. And I could also go a little bit faster. Okay, I will not do because of my co-driver. I do not want him to get sick. But you see what I mean. I had no problem in driving sporty here, but I felt the whole time very comfortable. So this is the key element of this car. Okay, if you want to have the perfect sporty ride, then you probably would go for the GTI, but I mean, okay, if you have enough money to go for it, then do so. But I always think of, okay, would I not go for this car, which costs about 20,000 bucks at least? Yeah, that's a lot, but yeah, that's definitely a lot. But if you compare it as how safe you feel inside because of this calm and smooth ride in general, probably I would say yes, it's worth it to go for this. I really hope you liked our exclusive presentation of the whole Volkswagen Golf history. And as we have here the vintage and the modern car, or the current 7th generation, what did we learn? First of all, it was rather an evolution than a revolution. Okay, when we have now both cars standing against each other, there you see big differences. Headlights, for example, they got more sharper and for sure also bigger, as well as the length of the car, which started at 3.70 meters, which is now longer than 4 meters. And the biggest change you might see in the interior. Just take the infotainment section as an example. In the past, you only had the opportunity to go with radio, then furthermore with the tapes, and then today we have a modern infotainment screen. But not only this one, but also the whole interior quality has definitely stepped up the game. For example, when you see here at the vintage car, there we had just very slim doors. Now in the current models, the doors are much thicker, so they have also stepped up the safety, and this was very interesting to see. Even the driving, for sure, we did not have any electronic support in the older cars, but here, as more you get into the modern times, as easier it was to drive the car, and this was definitely a very, very interesting experience for me. But it's also important to mention that it's not such a big step between the 4th and the 7th generation in the case of driving. There's just a little bit little changes, which makes it driving experience more comfortable and so on, but I could still imagine to just go with the 4th generation in general. At the end, I would also like to know, what's your favorite Golf generation? Put me that in the comments below, and also check out all of our Golf reviews. We'll also link them in the video description. And don't worry, Thomas will be back soon with an in-depth review, but I really hope you like this exclusive presentation with me, Michel, and we will see us soon on Autogefühl. Bye bye!